The only way is the right way, I might say. Nobody doing it better, y'all some lightweights. Malik Wright, up all day and all night, pushing all the buttons up to something till it's alright. He looking at it from all sides and angles, got a stripes on his body like he played for the Bengals. Oh man, there's no one discussing it. They came, they stayed, they either did it or done it. Man, I love it, cause all they ever do is win. So kick back, relax, the TWSN.
Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Sit Down Morning Show with Malik Wright, presented by the Right Way Sports Network. I'm your host, Malik Wright, joined by, as always, my co-host, Daniel Alameda, Jimmy on the ones and twos. A lot of stuff to get into. Before we do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys never miss when we go live, when we upload content from the TWSN studios. A lot of stuff happened in action yesterday in sports world, but I just want to start it off with the Dodgers in LA. The LA Dodgers are, World Series champs again, 2 times. This is the second time in the last 5 years. So it poses the question, can anybody slow down the Dodgers dynasty? Make no mistake about it. The Dodgers looked at it as a super team.
Mm-hmm.
The Dodgers looked at it as a team, right? That honestly, this reign could last for the next several years, right?
Yeah.
An overabundance at the talent, of talent at the position. And when you have a sports league where there isn't really a cap, right? You really can do whatever you want to do. You really can do whatever you want to do. So it brings up the question, can any other team in the league challenge the Dodgers, Daniel? Daniel, what say you?
Yeah, I think that the Dodgers, it's funny because they're a team where they are looked at as a super team. And the conversation before the season was they're a shoo-in to dominate. And I think that's what they were supposed to do. And to be honest with you, when you look at the series before this one, it looked like they were on outs, right? The Padres were, went up in the series. Everything was going their way. And somehow, some way, the Dodgers came back. And I think it's important. Let me start this off by saying, just so I don't sound like a hater, I applaud the Dodgers. They played extremely well, especially in this series. The pitching was great. You look at even the clutch hitting was absurd. Freddie Freeman was the guy, and they went with the series where their number one player, quote unquote, Shohei Ohtani, didn't play good. It was, and somebody made a very good comparison, Aaron Judge on the Yankees, Shohei Ohtani on the Dodgers. It really was as if a Luka Doncic and a Nikola Jokic were going head-to-head in the series, and both of them averaged 10 points a game throughout the series. That's what the comparison is. So when I look at what the Dodgers did without Shohei Ohtani performing at the plate, I think that you've got to be proud of what you did. And you look at the manager for the Dodgers, there's been constant rumors. I mean, especially since the fact that the Dodgers have been, quote unquote, the favorites heading into every single season the past 3 years, arguably, and they haven't done it. Last year, they got knocked out in the first round. So when I look at the Dodgers, I applaud them. I applaud their manager, just because, like, he's gone through a lot. He's gone through a lot of trial and error, and he's gone through a lot, respectfully, a lot of the media calling for his job, and me included, right? So I think that the Dodgers, they're not invincible, and they showed that this postseason, but they have all the talent in the world that they need to make a deep push once again next year and for many years in the future. So this is a team, they're not going away. I think that they're going to easily be the favorites heading into next season, and I just don't really see a world where they shouldn't be the favorites. So, am I confident, Malik, in them going back to back? I wouldn't say I'm super confident because we've seen their ability to be consistent in every single playoff series is not the case. So I think the Dodgers dynasty, I think they'll be successful. I think that they'll have the best record in the MLB. But when it comes to, do I think that they're going to go in and dominate the next 2 years and win the next 2 World Series? I don't think so. So the question for me really is on the other side. Like the Yankees, they blew this. They blew that game yesterday. They were up 5-0 in their home territory. And what did they do? Fielding errors. So much shit happened for the Yankees. So I feel for Yankees fans. Dodgers fans, you guys are good. You guys are good for the next 10 years. I know they're going to brag about it. And that's exactly what they were doing with their COVID title. They were bragging about it last year when they got knocked out of the first round. So with all that aside, applaud the Dodgers. They went into the season and did what they said they were going to do. So I applaud them for that, and they won it. So,
when I'm not the biggest baseball guy by any stretch of imagination. I wouldn't even classify myself as a baseball guy, but I do like to be in the know with things.
Yeah.
And the overall sentiment that I see people saying, there's only two teams that they think can knock off the Dodgers. And what I've seen so far is people talking about the Yankees, obviously, because they were just there and they think that they probably have the best realistic shot next year. But the Braves, people said, because they said the Braves have a super team. What are your thoughts on that, Daniel?
Yeah, I think that the Braves are definitely the team to get them. I also think that there's a team, the Phillies are a team where they've consistently been in the race, and like I know multiple Phillies fans, and it's the same sentiment almost as the Dodgers. They've got a great team, but they just can't do it in the playoffs. So I think that the Braves definitely are a team. I mean, they're the team that pushed them, multiple years ago, and they're I think the Braves definitely have the best shot. So I would rank the Braves for sure above the Yankees.
Well, they have the other super team, right? That people classify them.
And that's where the Yankees, in theory, have a dominant team, but Juan Soto's a free agent, and there's always questions about, hey, this is the first time I think they were in the World Series in the past 15 years, if I'm correct. So I'm with you. I think the Braves are a team, the Phillies are a team. And yeah, I don't know about the Yankees. I feel like the Yankees, it's going to be a very tumultuous offseason for them, and you got to feel for them.
So basically, it's funny. I'm from the New York, New Jersey area. Daniel's from the LA area. So,
and I don't like the Dodgers.
We haven't even discussed who your team is, right?
Yeah, I grew up a Red Sox fan.
Oh damn! You see, you had the fan base out there. You said you grew up a Red, and then you said Sox fan. Yeah. So I
also like the Reds too growing up. Not gonna lie.
Wow. Okay. I can't say that.
Who'd you like? Did you even like a team? Did you
what?
Did you even like a team at all?
No.
Did you ever have a baseball cap?
No.
Really?
No, I've never owned a baseball. You know what's crazy? I used to play baseball with my buddies though. By baseball, they would just tell me, they would give me a bat and they would say hit it.
Swing.
Honestly, I was good.
Yeah.
I've always been very good with my accuracy.
I cannot hit.
Hand-eye coordination has always been like a strong thing of mine.
Yeah.
But no, it's not something that I would fancy myself. I see my producer Jimmy over there. He's like kind of like getting antsy. He's never heard us talk baseball on this show before, and I'm really curious. Jimmy, you could take the headphones off. But I'm really curious for a second. Who do you see? Because you're really the baseball buff out of Daniel, and I'm not going to act like this is my forte. Who do you really see as a challenger for the Dodgers this upcoming season potentially? Probably the Braves.
Like y'all said, the Braves definitely have the best shot to disrupt their success, and the Braves are definitely the team to beat them.
Okay, so Jimmy agrees. Jimmy,
right.
So I guess I wasn't that off, right? I wasn't that far off, right? Jimmy was right. He said the Braves are the team to beat the Dodgers. The Braves are the team to contend. We gotta start giving Jimmy a mic.
Yeah.
Right on this point, so let him just talk. Because obviously, as we get deeper in this thing, we're gonna probably try to incorporate more Reds talk and more baseball talk into our segments, because there's definitely a conversation to be had. I feel like in talking about baseball, I guess I should mention the Reds. It feels like a lot of Reds fans are pretty excited about the new manager there, and his championship acumen and what he brings to the team. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. Certainly don't know if the Reds will be in the conversation for championship or even playoffs, but I think that they're a rebuilding team, and I think they're rebuilding in the right fashion, if you will. If you guys do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or when we upload content from the TWSN studios. I just realized we didn't even play the video, did we?
No,
we didn't play the video. But let's move on over to Indy. I was in Indy last night. And I will tell you right now, that atmosphere for a Pacers game was a little bit different from a Colts game right now. And I think that there's one person to blame for that, and that's a guy by the name of Shane Steichen. I look at Shane Steichen and I say to myself, hey, this is a guy that I feel went into this season, believing that he had his guy at the quarterback position, Anthony Richardson. He's a guy that got a lot of hype even through his first year with the Colts and what he was able to do. And now you have Anthony Richardson, who's now been benched. And this honestly feels like a desperate move. I forget so much stuff that I talk about. A good friend of mine who works for Blazer Report, he texted me, he said, dude, do you remember what you said to me at the combine? I said, what? He said, you said Shane Steichen would not be here long. You said Shane Steichen isn't who a lot of people think he is. I don't remember saying that necessarily. I do remember having strong thoughts on Shane Steichen and believing that that coaching staff in general that he came from got a lot of hype. And I look at Shane Steichen and I say to myself, what does it say about you as a coach that you went out, you selected this quarterback, and you weren't able to get the most out of him.
Mhm.
You've had to turn to a damn near 40. He might be 40 at this point, Joe Flacco, right? And you're relying on him to save your season. Well, this entire offseason, you implemented practices to try to get the most out of this roster, and you built this roster, constructed this roster to fit the identity of an Anthony Richardson, and now you're moving off of that guy. What does that say about you, especially being an offensive guru? And you say you still believe in Anthony Richardson. Are you sure about that? Because here's my thing. While I don't agree with the benching of Anthony Richardson, you knew what you were getting. You knew he was a project player.
Mhm.
So to bench a project player in the midst of the project being built, to me, I feel like Anthony Richardson will learn more by being out there versus not being out there. I feel like when you do finally thrust him back into the situation, you're getting more of the same result. You know what situation this is reminiscent of? Trey Lance.
Mm.
This is reminiscent of Trey Lance in San Francisco, where you draft a big athletic guy who has a big arm, and you believe in the quote unquote the word that I hate the most, guys, which is what? Potential. And you say, we believe in this guy's potential versus what we've actually seen. And then you're shocked when it doesn't come together, especially in the guy's first year fully starting. To me, that's on coaching staff. Daniel, what say you?
I think that you're right. And I think it's simple as you have to put yourself in the mindset of the head coach. The mindset of the head coach, Shane Steichen, is we just went to the playoffs last year, had success last year with a Joe Flacco at quarterback. And he is looking at this season and saying, how the hell can I turn my season around? Because quite frankly, and not even just turn your season around, Malik, I believe that the Colts right now are in playoff contention. The Colts right now are the number 7/number 8 seed. And that's what Shane Steichen, in my opinion, is looking at. He's looking at, hey, how can I save my ass? How can I put the best product on the field right now? And I do believe that Joe Flacco is the better quarterback right now. I do believe that Joe Flacco can run this offense better. And you have weapons. You got Pittman Jr. You got Josh Downs, who's been playing absurd. And Jonathan Taylor's finally healthy. And I think that Jonathan Taylor is finally starting to get his legs under him. So I can see the sentiment that Shane Steichen shares that, hey, I'm putting my team in the best position now. And maybe he believes, right, if Joe Flacco takes him to the playoffs, you let Anthony Richardson sit for a little bit and you make the playoffs, your ass is fine. Your spot in the organization is fine for another year. So then maybe saying, all right, I can go with Anthony Richardson versus the alternative. You go with Anthony Richardson and you develop him and you have some serious hiccups and you don't make the playoffs and you have a bad rest of the season. Where's your job? So I agree with the sentiment that what he's saying, but my biggest issue with this is the head coach and the GM should be on the same exact page. And that's where I have an issue with this, right? There shouldn't be a single team. And once again, I've never been in a front office, so I don't know the conversation that those guys are having. If I was running a team and if I drafted a quarterback in the early part of the first round, and if I'm that GM, I'm walking my head coach, I'm saying, hey, here's our plan. Me and you need to be in lockstep about what is going to happen. I'm going to give you full ultimatum. I'm going to let you do your job, but here's what I expect, right? And you would have hoped that conversation would have been had prior to this, and you hope that Chris Ballard and what this organization is on the same page. So that's where my confusion lies, because I think there's a positive for Anthony Richardson to sit. So but my issue is you gave this guy a false sense, and it's very similar to Bryce Young right now, right? Bryce Young got a false sense of reality heading into this year. Hey, you're our starter. And then you go out and you bench him. And then what's the future look like for Bryce Young? And it's the same thing. Go look at what the Miami Dolphins did with Tua, right? Tua was brought in, top 5 pick, had some serious struggles, and Brian Flores back and forth. Oh, we're going to bench you, put Ryan Fitzpatrick in. Oh, we're going to start you, put you back in. And what happened? Brian Flores ended up getting canned. And that's what my concern is here with Shane Steichen. Hey, how are you going to differ from that, right? And the difference, you mentioned Brock Purdy, Malik, or Trey Lance in the 49ers. The difference with that situation, they had a quarterback that it turned out well. Brock Purdy and the team around them was already successful. So that's the difference with this Colts team. They are not built like a 49ers team. I don't think that they're built to win 10 plus games. So that's my concern, is the 49ers were built to make a deep run into the playoffs. This Colts team isn't. And that's where I think that this conversation starts and ends. With the Joe Flacco, I think Shane Steichen is trying to save his ass, and I think he's trying to make the playoffs. Do I think that they do anything more than that? No, I don't. And that's where me as a GM, me as an ownership, I'm looking at the guy I drafted, and I'm saying, hey, he needs to be my guy. So I think there's positives and negatives. I don't think that this is a future move. I think that this is a move for the now. And you just hope that Anthony Richardson can sit behind Joe Flacco and learn and stay healthy and get healthy. So I do think that Shane Steichen's job is very, very hot because this is everything I just said is predicated on them making the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
It's not likely, it's not, confirmed that they're going to make the playoffs. So if Shane Steichen doesn't make the playoffs, I would be having some serious conversations. Say, hey, you bet your ass that it was going to be Joe Flacco. You bet your ass that you guys were going to make the playoffs, and you didn't make the playoffs. What's the pathway forward now? So, yes, his seat is totally hot right now.
You're preaching right now. You're preaching, and not only you're preaching, but you're preaching to the choir. Listen, I wonder. The one thing I think could save Shane Steichen's job, and I want to make sure we get TW and Analyst Parker Blake in here soon for this NFL talk, but y'all hear me out, guys. What could save a guy like Shane Steichen's job is the fact that it was so visible that Anthony Richardson kind of quit on the team. It was so visible that he wasn't mature enough to handle the duties of a franchise quarterback. It was so obvious.
Yep.
And I almost wonder, was Jim Irsay, a guy that pays attention to the team quite like no other? I mean, I haven't seen his angry tweets in the morning yet recently, but I wonder, did he see that and did he tell Shane Steichen to pull the plug a little bit? I wonder that. Yeah. That thought just came to me as I was sitting here. One thing about Colts football is they want guys out there that will give it their all. Think about it. They've had Peyton Manning, who literally tore cartilage in his neck, in his shoulder, playing for this team. That Andrew Luck playing with punctured lungs. And then you have a guy like Anthony Richardson who had to sub himself out after a long running play.
Yeah.
It's different. The drop-off is different from guys that were willing to put this organization on their back to what they have now. It makes you wonder a little bit how much. Obviously, it was the notion was a very media driven, I would say, but it makes you wonder how much of it was the organization seeing enough or saying enough is enough. Daniel, what say you?
Yeah, and you mentioned the media. I think the media plays a huge role in this, and I'm going to say a guy that we've discussed in the past too. Obviously, looking at Pat McAfee. And what Pat McAfee's legacy is with the Indianapolis Colts. I don't necessarily know what his relationship is with Irsay, is with Chris Ballard, but there's a chance. And like I said, that was the first thing I saw personally. And I make that connection because he played with the Colts and I know that he's connected with the Colts. His initial, sentiment was, I've never seen a guy quit on his team. He was clearly frustrated. He was pissed off at Anthony Richardson, like a lot of the fan bases. And Malik, I'm with you. I think that this is a franchise and this is an organization that is in touch with their fan base, that is in touch with what the fans want and what the fans feel, because respectfully, Jim Irsay is a fan. You see what he tweets time and time again. Go look at his Twitter. He's tweeting about practice squad players. What owner is tweeting about practice squad players being elevated? He clearly loves this team, and he's clearly a fan at the end of the day. And I think that the fandom sees what other fans are talking about. So, Malik, I think that you hit the nail on the head. I think that there is a world where Jim Irsay and the organization say, hey, everybody's talking about our team in a negative light. We've got to do something now. And there's a good chance. And if that's the case, then Shane Steichen's job is probably good for now. And that's the concern, is Shane Steichen wasn't the reason why they drafted Anthony Richardson. I mean, he could be, but very rarely, I would say, is the head coach the number one reason. It's likely the GM and the owner, because that's the face of your franchise. And Shane Steichen is a head coach, not the face of the franchise. So this is on the organization to get this right. And that's the hard part, is you put all your eggs in the basket of one quarterback, and if it doesn't pan out, you do look respectful like a dumbass. And that's the part where I think that you made a great point. And if that's the case, I don't think it's a terrible decision. So,
in a league or in a day and age now where everything is doom and gloom, everybody wants instant gratification. I just want to say this. Hear me out. everybody's not going to come into the league performing right away.
Yep.
Everybody's not going to come into the league performing right away. Now everybody's ready to be a starter. You know, there was a point in time where first round picks would get a chance to sort of sit behind a veteran and learn.
Yes.
One thing we got to give the Colts props for is that they were heady about it. And they say, hey, we need Joe Flacco to stay. Right.
Mm-hmm.
We need him here. We need him to make sure our season, if it does start to float away a little bit, we can have him come in here and sort of right the ship. We saw what the job he did with the Cleveland Browns. Let's bring him here as a veteran mentor for Anthony Richardson. I don't know if you guys watch as much preseason as I did, but I don't know if you guys remember, there was like reports coming out of preseason that Anthony Richardson and Joe Flacco actually weren't hitting it off.
Mm-hmm.
There were reports coming out that Anthony Richardson was very reluctant to advice and kind of like had a big ego, when it came to Joe Flacco. I don't think he really fancied the signing of a Joe Flacco as much as others or us in the media did. But, I think it's a situation in which when you look at it, damn, did the Colts get it right by doing that, right? Because what would it look like if they didn't have a veteran to turn to, or they had to turn to a younger player or a rookie, right? What would that look like? Look to? They didn't have that veteran leadership in their locker room. So if I'm Anthony Richardson, I think it's all about the way you approach the game. I think taking this on the chin and taking this as a true learning experience would be huge for him. I think it'd be huge for his maturation, huge for his growth. I think that's how he gets ahead. And I think that's how he finds himself back in the starting lineup at some point. But I do think the Shane Steichen and Anthony Richardson future together is in doubt a little bit.
Yes.
It really does feel like it's on the same path as a Kyle Shanahan, Trey Lance. And I think being willing to admit when you got something wrong is so crucial to an organization, to a coach, and being able to just move off of that as soon as possible is probably the best move for both parties, especially if you don't see any progress to the rest of the season, the remainder of the season. If you guys could do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live, when we upload content from the TWSN studios. Let's get our guy Parker Blake in here, TWSN analyst Parker Blake, because it's going to be some of the fun topics now that we're going to be talking about. What's going on, Park?
Morning. How are we doing?
Doing good, man. Listen, I don't like the Browns, but I kind of like that hat you're wearing right now. I know it's not the Browns hat, but it's their colors.
It's my high school. It's actually supposed to be a black hat. It's just I've had it for 6 years and it's seen a lot of rain. So
Okay.
Go Bears.
So it's been through the fire, if you will.
Yes, sir. I practice hat, man. It's seen a lot.
Yeah, man. Listen, I want to talk to you about some of the trade deadline candidates, man, and who potentially do you see being moved? Who are some players that you think ideally could be moved? And I want to let Daniel in on this conversation as well.
Yeah, I think that the first thing, Park, and I'm excited to talk about this, is I kind of want to touch on some of the guys that are the upper echelon names, but I think it's important that we discuss, some of the guys that we feel like actually could be traded. So who would you say? Give me, the two of the top guys, and we'll just start off with that that could be traded. And let's talk about, some of the more high caliber names, whether it's edge rushers, whatever position you want to talk about first.
The couple that interest me right out the gate are a guy like Darius Slayton and then Zadarius Smith. I think those are two guys that I expect to move in this window. I think there's a lot of teams at this point in the season that could use a receiver like a Slayton. I think he's done a lot and shown a lot that's raised his stock throughout these first few games. And then obviously Zadarius Smith. There's a couple teams needing a presence on the defensive line, but I really like him as a fit to the Lions personally, more specifically.
Yeah. I definitely think the Lions are a spot that I'm looking at to pencil in for edge rusher. And I think that there's another guy also like, I think Jadeveon Clowney. I think Jadeveon Clowney is a name that is a guy that a lot of contenders could use, right? Obviously, he's 31 years old. Just 2 years ago or last year, he had 8.5 sacks. This year with the Panthers, obviously, their defensive line not looking hot. I think he's another name that could definitely get, shipped out. And then I want to bring you to these names. I want to get your thoughts on these, Parker. Travis Etienne, running back for the Jaguars, and then also an Adam Thielen, wide receiver for the Panthers. I want to kind of get your thoughts. Do you think that those are two guys that will be moved, and that I've got a couple teams that could use them?
Etienne was actually third on my list, so I'm glad you brought him up. I think he's one of the biggest candidates to be moved as well because again, I just think the Jaguars are gonna start leaning into that kind of rebuild mentality, which feels weird with a guy like Trevor Lawrence, but I just feel like, the way this team's going, you can start eyeing, what kind of assets can we get back? Can we shorten this rebuild? Maybe they even look to move a guy like a Trevor Lawrence in the offseason. I don't know what that looks like for them, but I think ETN definitely should be on the block. I think there's a lot of teams that could be eyeing him. I think it's kind of interesting thinking about him going to like a situation like the Cowboys where they don't really have a lot going on in that backfield right now, and he's the guy that could be an instant impact guy, bring a lot of juice. But yeah, ETN's one of my favorite guys in this cycle. And I've already forgot the other name you mentioned because I was
the other name was Adam Thielen.
Adam Thielen is interesting because I feel like I hate that he went to Carolina.
Yeah,
because I feel like it was kind of more of a money move for him. I don't think he went there, hoping to be a part of a rebuild. I don't think he went there hoping it was going to turn around quick. I think it was just kind of like, hey, let me get some security near the end of my career. But I think he's still got some left in the tank. And again, I think just like I thought with Slayton, I think there's some receivers in this market that you can get relatively cheaply that can really bring more of an impact than I think a lot of people believe. And I think Thielen and Slayton are great examples of that, where they're not names that really flash out to you, but the more you think about it, you're like, oh yeah, actually I can see him fitting, here or here and really being a solid impact for that team. So I love that move.
For sure. And I want to touch on, we'll get to some more names. I'm sure you got some more names, but real quick, I want to touch on some of these teams real quick. And I just want to kind of get your thoughts. Who are some of the teams that you think are going to be trading for players? Whether it's Steelers, whether it's the Cowboys, the Commanders are potentially in a spot they could be trading for. Is there any team that you're looking at saying, hey, I'm very confident this guy or this team's going to at least attempt to make a move?
I think the Steelers are one of the biggest names in my mind. I think they're doing better than they thought they would, which sounds funny to say, but I don't think anybody saw the Steelers ripping off, 6 wins in the first 8 games. And I think they might be able to shift into that, like, oh, we might actually have a chance to do something here. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them bring in some pieces, especially with just the culture and just the coaching that they have on that team, especially with the injuries they've dealt with. I think they're able to bring in some guys that can really just, again, be instant impact guys, can help them down the stretch until they either get healthy or get to the postseason, depending on what position they're able to bring in. And, speaking of Shane Steichen, I'm interested to see there's 2 teams in the AFC that I'm interested to see which direction they go. They could either be sellers or they could be buyers. And that's the Colts and the Broncos. Like, are you going to try and patch together this team and really try and finish out this season? And, you have young guys in key positions on those teams. And those are both pretty young rosters that, maybe just take some veterans to come in, bolster that roster, give them a little bit more leeway, give them more time to develop, but still be able to make that playoff push where it feels like they might, potentially be in that conversation.
Yeah.
And then as far as, guys I think are for sure buying, I think the Cowboys are definitely in the market for a couple positions personally.
For sure. So let's touch on some more of these names. And I'm a huge fan. I love trade deadline. I love this because I just love looking at these guys that are moving. There's some names I want to touch on. First off, I want to look at the edge rushers, and this kind of ties into like what some of these other teams need. This guy Azeez Ojulari, I just want to get your thoughts on somebody like him. Do you think that the Giants are going to move him? Because obviously you got Thibodeau on one side, you got Brian Burns on the other. He's getting playing time, but Thibodeau's coming back soon. Do you think he's somebody that should be moved? And what do you think would be a price for him?
I'm a big fan of Ojulari. I wasn't a big fan of Thibodeau coming out. I don't think Thibodeau's looked great in the NFL. I think Ojulari's really proven himself. So I'd be surprised to see them move him at the deadline. I think they want to see what they can get out of him the rest of the season. I have him more as an offseason guy where I do believe he hits the market this year as a free agent. So I wonder if teams don't necessarily go for him now, but kind of eye him more as like hey, once he hits the market, I don't think he stays in New York. Let's go try and get this guy. But yeah, I mean, Ojulari is a guy I really, really, really like. And I would hate to see the Giants move on from him. But again, I know they have Brian Burns on the one side, but I don't know if they see Thibodeau as a guy that's going to be a long-term piece for them in New York. And I think Ojulari could be that, but it's also they're a team that do they just try and strip this thing down and start over again, or kind of where do they go? They're not. I mean, this is the team they wanted to field, right? And that's the thing with the Giants right now is they don't really have a bunch of injuries. They're relatively healthy. I mean, this is the team they wanted to be, and it's giving you 2-6. So do you restart? Do you say, no, we have faith in our guys? We just gotta, we gotta let them gel a little bit. We got to get into the process. Like, it's just they're another team that's going to be interesting to see kind of how they move.
I would agree. I think that they've got some guys, even a guy like Ojulari. Like, you look at what Montez Sweat got last year, you got a second-round pick. You look at what Chase Young got last year, you got a third-round pick. I think that'd be the value for what Aziz would kind of garner right now. But like you said, it remains to be seen. Is there any other guys that you have on that list that, think could be moved / will be moved come trade deadline?
Yeah, no, to the pass rusher conversation, Emmanuel Ogbah is a guy that I think has always been kind of under the radar. He's never really gotten a ton of hype. I think he's got 5.5, 6 sacks on the year already. Like he's a baller, and I think you can get him for relatively cheap because, again, I don't know how valued he is across the league, but I think he brings a lot of juice. And again, another target for a team needy at defensive line, especially for the pass rush like the Lions could be. I think the Lions are a team that I think everybody expects to be very active and late into this window. And I'm interested to see what they bring in.
Yeah, I think that they're the team that's definitely going to look at edge rushing. Like you said, I think Ogbah's a nice one. And then there's two more that I want to touch on real quick. The Buccaneers, we were obviously looking at them, and they've got a plethora of edge rushers. One of the guys seems like he's on the outs, outside linebacker Joe Chiron. He's a guy where Buccaneers fans will all agree he's not one of their better passers. He's hyper athletic, but he consistently gets moved in the running game. He's a guy that I think could be available because obviously one of my favorite guys, Yaya Diaby. He's an amazing name, but he has, and I'd be curious to see if the Buccaneers want to move off of him, but he's a guy that when just watching film, he is popped off. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on the Buccaneers edge rushers, and do you think that they would move off of any of them?
Yeah, I love Yaya Diaby, and I honestly think he does get moved. But again, I think he's more of an offseason target because, again, I believe he hits the market. So I think it's interesting to see how teams handle those guys where it's like, hey, he's in the last year of his deal. Yeah. Do we trade for him and then extend him now, or do we just kind of let him ride the season out? Maybe that price goes down a little bit throughout the season on a bad team, and then we reach out in the offseason and then go get that guy for a little cheaper, and then we get him longer term. But yeah, no, the Buccaneers are a team where I'd be interested to see if they sell because I do think they're a scrappy team. I really like the Buccaneers this year. I've heard a lot of people say, I wish I could get Buccaneers Falcons football every week. Those teams are just they play each other well and they're fun to watch, both of them. But I hope the Buccaneers aren't in sell mode because I do think they have a really good organization. They have a good roster, but they're just missing some pieces. So I'd like to see them be a buyer at the deadline. However, with the way the season's going, I don't know if that's realistic for them. And then another name I wanted to bring up, Treylon Burks out of Tennessee. They've already D-Hop. Are they going to move Treylon Burks and just tear this thing down? And if Will Levis isn't the guy, you've already moved on from Malik. Do you just do a full tear down?
Nobody moved on from me. What are you talking about? Come on, bro.
Do you tear this thing down? You let Bill and Brian Callahan build up the offense that they want to see, and get back going and try and get on the right track, or do you try and piece this thing together?
Yeah, I'm with you. And real quick, I've got one more, and then sorry, Malik, if I'm taking up.
Wait, actually, can I jump in? Actually, because I just want to stay on that real quick, and then I want you to kind of finish it off there. But there are three names: Marshawn Lattimore. I'm curious again, would a team go out there, a team that's trying to contend for a championship, and they see issues on their defense, especially in their secondary, would they go out and trade for him? A team that comes to mind when I think about Marshawn Lattimore is the Baltimore Ravens. Ooh. Baltimore Ravens. Kansas City Chiefs are another team that come to mind when I think of Marshawn Lattimore. I just wonder, would they? Parker brought up Tennessee, Sebastian Joseph Day.
Yeah.
Right? For a team that's looking to contend. Maybe they go out there and they look to bolster the defensive line. Look at Jonathan Jones for the New England Patriots, right? You're looking to get a slot corner, and you're on, a team that's fringe of turning this thing around. And obviously there's always the Chase Young discussion.
Yeah.
Right? Only on a 1-year deal. It's not going to cost the team much to go out there and acquire that guy and maybe help bolster your defensive line, especially for a team that might need pass rush. And then I know we've talked about it already, but Aziz Ojulari is another guy that I'm looking at. Yeah, I think he could be had for a 6th-round pick.
Yes.
All right. Hasn't shown a bunch, but I think he's a guy that can make a lot of sense. Which brings me to my next point. If you're a team that's sitting at 3-5, and you have some deficiencies on your roster, and maybe you ain't signing nobody right now. You're not giving anybody a contract extension right this moment. Am I right, Parker? Am I right, Daniel? You're not giving anybody a contract extension right this moment. But you do know what you're trying to do. You're trying to get your season back on track. You're trying not to piss off your franchise quarterback. And I'm not talking about any team in particular. I'm just saying, if I'm a team sitting at 3-5 and I wind up winning this weekend, well, I personally go out there and I'd see what I could acquire. We just saw Josh Uche get traded for a 2026 6th-round pick.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Let me tell you right now, pick up the goddamn phone, make a call, save your season. Your players that you have on your team aren't going to instantly just get better overnight. So do something to help fix the issue. Show that you're a competent franchise and be aggressive. Make a move. Because if I'm sitting at 3-5, you win, I'm making a phone call. And I'm saying, hey, need pass rush help and cornerback help. That's what I'm looking at. Pass rush help and cornerback help. This is not like any other trade deadline. Usually you don't see this many pass rushers potentially available for trade. You have the resources to fix the issue. So for me, like I said, go out there, make a trade. If you win, if you lose, whatever, scrap it. But if you win, I think 4-5, everything is still on the table. I think 4-5, everything is still on the table. Don't get complacent. You know? That's just my thoughts. If you get to 4-5, be aggressive. And yeah, Gary, I see in the comment section saying it must be a Jersey thing. You want me to be direct? I'll be direct. Just want to hurt a couple people's feelings, and I don't want people texting me again. So again, like I said, you get to 4-5, you make some moves. You do what you got to do to save your season. This it's very clear to me, this team needs a jolt. Mm-hmm. If you lose to the Raiders, screw it. But if you beat the Raiders, save your goddamn season. Save your goddamn season. And you don't do that by saying, well, we won with the guys we got. We trust the players that we got in the building. You go out there, you act like you got some gumption, right? Mm-hmm. You act like you want to win. You act like you want to turn this thing around. Come on, you came from the McVay tree, right? So you know what it means to be aggressive. You know what being all in looks like. Show this fan base something. And that's from Duke to Zach to Trey Brown to Katie Blackburn to Elizabeth, who I know doesn't call the shots, to Mikey. Like, this is to everyone involved. It's simple to me. Try and get better. Because it's clear to me that you went in to this season thinking that it was going to be a lot better than what it was. Well, guess what? It hasn't been. So what are you going to do? And yes, Wes Houdat, you said, Malik, it ain't going to happen. I've been a Bengals fan my entire life. I moved here to change the narrative in Cincinnati. So you know what? For me, I have an obligation, because I'm in a different spot from any other media people. I have an obligation to jump on with this mic and put pressure on the organization to change its ways. You see, when I do it, you can't call me a hater because I'm looking out for the betterment of the team. When Pat McAfee does it, everybody calls him a hater. They say whatever. No, I'm coming right from the bubble, if you will. And Wes, Cincinnati ain't never had nobody like me. I'm going to keep pushing the agenda forward. I'm going to keep saying, listen to your fans. I'm going to keep saying, let's not settle for mediocrity. I'm bringing a New York, New Jersey style of media in Cincinnati. And it's a piss poor way that they're going about it right now. If you get to 4-5, find a goddamn way. That's what every other functioning organization does. And in the off chance Joe Burrow sees this or hears this, hey, listen, as the franchise quarterback, you don't realize you and Jamar Chase are the most powerful people from a player standpoint in that building. Y'all are the only two dudes that can probably demand certain stuff or request certain stuff, and the organization might move. I'm going to tell it like it is. The fact of the matter is, you need to start operating like a functioning organization that understands that you're in a championship window. Do y'all not realize it's the last year you're going to have T. Higgins, basically? Listen, it can get ugly fast. It can get ugly fast. You get to 4-5, play some goddamn phone calls. Daniel, what say you?
No, you're right. You're right. And I think there's not really much to say to follow up with that. I'm curious to hear Parker's thoughts. I just want to give, one more name real quick for the Bengals to go out and potentially get. And this is a guy that I think the team should be looking to go out and get. But all around your sentiment, Malik, if you win this game, you're at 4-5. The season is not over. It's not 4-5. Then you head into, you're going to have to do something very improbable. Head into Baltimore on prime time, Thursday Night Football, and win that game.
I agree with you. I'm just going to say this. Imagine beating the Raiders, making a trade, and then you have to face Baltimore in a short week. And regardless, the team, the fan base are going to be like, damn, they went out and made a trade to get better. Even if that said player isn't active that day, or maybe they don't play a lot of snaps, you have something to hang your hat on. You're like, okay, things might look a little different. I'm not saying go out there and trade the farm. We're talking about 6-round picks. Mm-hmm. We're talking about 6-round picks. That's what we're talking about. 6th and 5th round picks for a chance for a guy to make a significant, change to your defense, right? Mm-hmm. Because that's what we're talking about right now. We're talking about the defense not being at its best. Trey Hendrickson is out there fighting for his life. He is fighting for his life in the pass rush situation. And he's getting locked up by Fred Johnson. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, your other pass rusher is getting locked up by a blocking tight end. A blocking tight end. And let me guess what you're going to say is, Sam's dealing with injuries. Okay, get the guy off the fucking field. It's that simple to me. It's not rocket science. Right?
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? Only team that I know that stares at a problem and says, that problem's going to get better. Yeah, that problem might get better. Yeah, that problem might, the problem's not going to get better. Y'all do know that you have free agency, right? You have the draft, and you have the trade deadline to use to your disposal. You figured out the draft part. Trust me, that's why you keep all your picks. You figured out the free agency thing, sort of. You changed your stripes, right? What about the trade part? You've made 2 trades in the last decade. What are we doing here? Mm-hmm. Like, I can't look at Trey Hendrickson, who's one of the best pass rushers in the league, and say, hey, I need you to beat double teams all game. Meanwhile, the guy that's next to him, Sam Hubbard, can't get off of a block from a tight end. Well, if it's that bad, put Myles Murphy in. Put Cedric Johnson in. Do something different. It's clear he has no help. Yep. You have the cap space. Agreed, Gary Jellison. You have the cap space. Make the moves now. Why are y'all so reluctant to change? If you care that much about a 6-round pick, I'm sure you can get it back. I'm sure you could trade a future 6-round pick in next year's draft or 2 years from now to get another 6-round pick. I'm sure you can. But that would be too smart, right? That would be too smart. And I hate to act like I know it all because I don't. But what I'm saying is, if you're unwilling to try and fix the problems on your team while you're in season, maybe you should do something. Hey, remember, your starting cornerback went out with a torn ACL. And what did you do? That's fine. Mm-hmm. It's all right. It's okay. We're going to keep him We're going to keep the guys that we have. We trust the guys that we. What are you doing? And then you're asking Lou to make all these magical changes and do so much. What are you doing to help him? Give the guy a fighting chance. Cam Sample went down, you did nothing. Dax Hill went down, you did nothing. What are you doing? Make a damn change. Make a damn phone call. To me, it's not that difficult. It's asking yourselves, do we want to win a championship? Shit, right now you should be asking yourself, do we want to save our season?
Yeah.
And here's the crazy thing. You trade for a guy with a year left, was only a 1-year deal. Guess what? Well, the guy's contract's going to fall off. He's only going to be here for a couple of weeks, and you move on, and it's like, fine, everything's fine. Wow, we lost out on a 6th-round pick. What 6th-round pick is coming and making a difference? Don't tell me punter, because the punter that you picked up off a free agent after you got cut. Your other 6th-round punter or 5th round, whatever his name was, got cut. He's no longer on the team. Didn't even get a call to be on a practice squad. What are you like hoarding picks for? What are you saving up for? Like a kid in a candy shop. What are you saving up for? Mm-hmm. What are you saving up for? Dude, call my line. What are you saving up for? What's that 6th-round pick going to get you? What that 5th-round pick going to get you? What's it going to get you? Oh, it's going to give us a defensive tackle that we're not going to play. Do y'all see the issue with this? Yeah. Park, do you see the issue with this? Like, operate like a functioning organization. I had no plans on going on this rant today. But the more and more I sit and I let it just simmer in me, it irritates me, and it should irritate you. Why the hell would this fan base keep pulling up to the stadium game after game for an 0-4 product, and you have a chance to get better, you have a chance to make trades, you have a chance to be aggressive, and you say to yourself, nah, we're good with what we have. You should be fired. You should be. If you're not going to operate like a functioning general manager, I'm sorry, director of player personnel, something should change. You have Joe fucking Burrow as your quarterback. There are teams in playoff hunts with Sam Darnold as their quarterback. And what you say is we like the players we have on their team. Which brings us to our next topic. Let's talk about the Bengals. Jimmy, roll the clip.
Swing game, yeah. We're 3-5. You go to 3-6. Then you got to basically win out to get in. So urgency is very high every week from here on out.
Arguably the 3 elite teams right now in the AFC, all making moves, Bills, Chiefs, and Ravens. What goes through your mind when you see those teams getting better?
That's not my job.
Do you ever wish that, the organization would give you another weapon or two, or on either side of the ball?
It's not my job.
So before I continue my rant, I'm very curious what you folks, you amazing folks in the comment section, make of Joe Burrow's press conference. I am by no means a psychologist, but I have a couple of takeaways from that video of Joe Burrow discussing what is his job versus what isn't his job. I think this is where you probably need to read the room. Read the tea leaves. Parker, I've been talking a lot. I'm going to let you and Daniel get in here before I finish up my discussion.
Yeah, no, I love this, and I love what you said earlier, right? Where you said, there's 2 guys on this team, on this roster, that have power in the organization. And I think everyone knows, like, around the NFL, it's not necessarily a coach-led. Teams aren't led by coaches, like, most of the time around the league. It's led by players and run by the front office. And that's where, yes, in his position, he's paid to be a quarterback. He's paid to be an athlete. He's paid to go out there and play football. But also knowing your role, knowing your position, knowing the kind of the leverage you can have. Yeah. Is it your job though? Like, is it? It might not be in your job description, but it might be part of your role. to at least have those conversations. And I wonder how much of this was finally just kind of Joe leaning into the, I don't want to come out and share my feelings and my opinions with the public. That's not a good, thing to do from a leadership perspective. That's not a good thing to do just from an athlete perspective. Guys get, toasted for that all the time. They get flamed for that all the time for coming out and trashing their organization. You don't want to be that guy. However, I think this is a great example of, I think, Joe Burrow trying to tell people, and maybe, everyone's going to read it this way too much, but it's more of just like hey, I know my lane. I've been told to stay in my lane. I've brought things up, and I've been told to stay in my lane. I'm a quarterback. I'm supposed to be a quarterback, and that's what's been given to me. I wonder if that's more of what he's leaning into. It's not necessarily I don't know. I'm gonna trust the guys doing that job to do that job. But I wonder if it is hey, I've had conversations, or I've brought things up, and I've been told to, my job as a quarterback. I wonder if that was more of a play on a conversation that he had.
Yeah, and I think that's where the issue with this lies. And Malik, like I said, I really don't want to add too much to that because I thought you summarized that up very well. It really is like how they operate is different from every other organization. And the issue with this is you look at organizations that have won, that have been successful, that have actually done the damn thing and won it all. You look at what the Chiefs are doing. You look at what these other teams are doing. These are teams that have won it. And the Kansas City Chiefs right now, and you have to use them as an example, and you have to use them as a measuring stick because right now they're 7-0. They've won the last 2 Super Bowls, and they are still going out there making trades. And the issue with this is it is a fundamental issue, and that's something that we can all agree on. The stat about, Bengals making only 2 trades in however many years, that is a fundamental issue with this team, and that's how they've operated. And I'm just struggling to see the mantra of how you can think, hey, it's worked for us in the past. How has it worked for you in the past if you've never won a Super Bowl? And I think that's just the basis, and it's as cut and dry as that is for me. How has it worked in the past if you haven't won it all? And that's where I'm at with this organization. That's where I'm at with this team, saying, hey, if you go out and win this week against the Raiders, your season is still alive. You can still, and I think we can all agree, right? If this Bengals team somehow finds a way to make it into the playoffs, we're all going to be looking at each other saying, heading into that first playoff game, if it's a wild card game, saying, I'm confident in my team. Yeah. Like we're here. And I think every single Bengals fan can agree to that sentiment. Hey, if you're in the dance, we're going to be confident in the team. It's about getting in the dance. So how the hell do you get in the dance? In my opinion, you have to provide a spark. And the Raiders, first off, that win hopefully provides a spark. And I do think that you would hopefully and hope that they can make a trade. So I think that this team, albeit if they do get a win on Sunday, I feel like I would hope that they don't feel complacent and say, okay, we're fine, we can relax. No, your season is, you need to go out and win literally 6 of those last 8 games. You need to go do something improbable. And that's the part that frustrates me, is the fact that you're not doing everything it takes. And Malik, you touched on the cornerbacks, right? Mm-hmm. Dax Hill getting hurt. Knock on wood, you got 8 more weeks. What happens if Cantaloupe Brate or, DJ Turner go out? Are you going to rely on Josh? What is your plan?
I could see if this is a situation where your quarterback got hurt or something like that, but Joe's healthy. Joe's playing, having a very good season. You have a shot to get better. Yes. You have a shot. Your season's not over. It's not dead. It's not dead in the water yet. But you not choosing to go after players or try to do everything in your power to maximize this season, what does that signify? Mm-hmm. That shows that you're not all in. That shows that you're not willing to make changes. That shows that you're not, you're just not willing to get better. You're staying. You're pretty much doing the same thing that you've been doing. Is business as usual. Like, somebody in the organization has to be smart enough to say, "Hey, y'all, we should try to do something." The season is not over yet. Yep. The season's not over yet. It's very salvageable still. You're 1-1 in your division. Like, what am I missing? Seriously, what am I missing here? I can see if you are winless or you've only won 1 game. You're 3-5. with a winnable game against the Raiders on Sunday, and you have a big divisional game against the Ravens, who you almost beat. But you know what hurt you? Defense. You had a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter under 4 minutes to go. Under 5 minutes to go, I'm sorry. Twice in the fourth quarter, you had a 10-point lead. So if you can point to the area on your football team that you need a jolt in, pass rush, cornerback help, you know what area to attack at the trade deadline. And the only thing I can think of is financially you're worried, or the capital you're worried. Yeah, we saw Cam Robinson get traded. A starting left tackle in the National Football League get traded for a 6th-round pick. And Duke, you won't pick up the phone? No? Just not interested? Like, seriously, I fundamentally, like, there's something wrong with this approach. Something wrong with this approach. You have and I'm not saying go out there and just trade anything, but at the end of the day, we are just talking about a 6th-round pick. And if you miss out on a generational prospect who was picked in the 6th round, I'll bite that bullet. Mm-hmm. I'll bite that bullet every single day to try and maximize the championship window. Other teams are laughing at you. Other organizations are laughing at you. Other fan bases are laughing at you. And your own fan base, your own people within Cincinnati are starting to laugh at you. That high horse that everyone was on, or that high I would say everyone was on after the Super Bowl, is starting to come down.
It ain't here. Respectfully. It's not here.
Yeah. And I think that when you look at it, you got to make a change. And you got to make a change now. Show this quarterback that you're willing to do whatever it takes to put together a winner on the football field. If you say the defense is the issue, help the defense out. Right? It's just that simple, guys. Do things that will help maximize this window. I don't think that what I'm saying is a hot take. I don't think what I'm saying is an emotional take. I'm saying go out there and try to make additions to this roster that will help. You making Tanner Hudson inactive, or Tanner McLaughlin inactive, or I don't know, a Trent Irwin inactive. You keep so many receivers on your team and only so many can be active. Well, those guys are guys you can cut versus guys that will actually help the team. J2 Fele, how many games is he going to be inactive? Get somebody on this team that will actually help, that will actually be active on game days. You can't tell me you're worried about a 4th tight end. You can't tell me that. Come on. It's not rocket science. I've never stepped foot in an NFL organization front office before. I've never done that. I don't know if the walls are just closing in, or the walls a little too heavy, or maybe it's a couple mold on the wall or something like that. But come on, guys. Come on. You can't be serious. You're not about to fuck up a great thing, right? You're not about to be so unserious. And people can't ask these type of questions because then their credentials would get threatened. Come on now. Duke. Well, everybody's pointing the finger to you. Zach has said, I'll let Duke and his staff handle that. Joe has said that's not his job. So if it ain't Zach's job, and it ain't Joe's job, it's Duke's job. Duke, do us a favor. De facto GM, director of player personnel. How about you put yourself in front of the media? That's my challenge to you. Somebody clip this moment. Duke, how about you put yourself in front of the media? Not Zach, not Joe. How about you put yourself in front of the media on Monday? And you address the organization. And you address the fan base. And you tell them why you are looking at the trade market, or you're planning not to look at the trade market. I'm not even asking you to be active at the trade deadline right now. Duke, you put yourself in front of the media and allow them to ask you whatever. You think he'll take me up on that offer, guys? You put yourself in front of the media on Monday. Don't have Zach. We don't want to hear from Zach. We don't want the coach speak answer. Duke, you put yourself in front of the media on Monday, and you allow people in the media, right? The James Rapines, everybody else in the world, to ask you whatever question. Gloves are off. And there'll be no pushback. Credentials won't be threatened. None of that shit. You put yourself in front of the media on Monday, and you say to yourself, I'll ask whatever question as to why we are going to be active at the trade deadline. We're going to look at the market or whatever the case may be. Whatever question they want to ask you. You can do it. You made Jamar Chase available on the podium. Let's hear from you. I can't wait. Somebody clip that moment. Marissa, clip that moment. At Bengals, let's make Duke Tobin active on Monday. Let's put him in front of the podium on Monday. And let's see if he'll answer those questions regarding the roster. Because then you can pinpoint who actually is the issue. Mm-hmm. If Duke says, we like our roster, we like where we're at, it's a Duke Tobin problem. I think that's fair. Yeah. I think it's not rocket science. If he says, we'll look at the market, we'll see what we'll get input from our coaches, we'll see what we want, X, Y, blah, 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 blah. But somebody's got to answer for it. Mm-hmm. And it ain't Zach, right? From a trading perspective, he said that's Duke and his staff. Okay. Well, I want to know about Duke and his staff. Let's put them on the podium. That's my call to action. Put Duke Tobin on the podium on Monday. Let's hear from him. All right. Cool. Park, my man, this was awesome. It was great talking with you, talking NFL with you, brother. We look forward to having you back on the show on Tuesday as we talk things through. Let's see what happens against the Raiders on Sunday, my man. But as always, make sure you guys give Parker Blake a follow on social media. And while you're here, also give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content. Only got 16 likes on the video, guys. If we can get that up, I'd greatly appreciate that. But Park, my man, we'll talk with you soon.
Yeah, you take it easy, brother. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir, brother. So yeah, that's my call to action, guys. I'm really not a big call to action dude on a regular basis, but I think when changes are necessary, changes are necessary, and I'm curious to see what happens. I want to switch on over to NBA before we bring in Michael O'Hara for our fantasy football talk. Jokic came out and said that right now that the Nuggets just aren't a good shooting team. Now, obviously, this was 2 days a little old. They obviously beat the Nets in overtime. But let's roll that clip, Jimmy.
A good shooting team, I think. Except probably Mike and Jamal. We're not like all of us are like kind of streaky, not streaky, but just average shooters. So yeah, but we have something else. So we can probably be better, have advantage in some other things on the floor.
Danny, what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's very simple, and I think it's kind of funny that we're just having that discussion about Bengals players at the podium, and now we got this discussion about another player in a different sport. I appreciate when players are honest, and I'm not saying that other players aren't and they can't be, but somebody like Jokic, and I think it's totally different sport, but he is honest, and that was his call to action. I think that him putting the onus on himself as well is the biggest thing of accountability. And go look at even players in the NBA. They don't often do that. Jokic said, we are not a good shooting team. He didn't blame anybody else. He said, I'm part of the problem too. We only got 2 good shooting guys on the team right now. That's Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. The rest of us are average. And that's the word he used. And I think that's what makes a player great. And that's what makes an organization great. When they can come out and say, hey, we have not been good. I have not been good. And this is what needs to change. So I just applaud Nikola Jokic for that. I think that Jokic's statement is honest. I think that he's an honest person. He's never going to bullshit. And like I said, I think that that's an important trait to have, especially when you look at the NBA. It is 82 games. So something that he says in game 3 of the season isn't going to carry weight come game 82 and heading into the playoffs. So I think that Nikola Jokic what he said was very important. I think that he was very honest. And like I said, I think that that can help create momentum in an organization. I think that that can help create a change within his players and show, hey, guys, I messed up. I only put up 22 points. I shot 1 for 5 from 3. I was a part of the problem too. But we all got to get better. We all have to have expectation of being great. We have to hold ourselves to that standard. So Nikola Jokic stating that, I think it was a great thing. I think it's a great thing for the team. And you've seen other teams like the Los Angeles Lakers last year. They beat around the bush. They're saying, very reminiscent of, certain other teams that just don't have a lot of success. Lakers and LeBron James are like, yeah, we're trying. Anthony Davis, saying, I tried today. I'm dealing with an injury. So stuff like that, to where last year the Lakers were beating around the bush. I just appreciate a player like Nikola Jokic being on that podium, being honest and saying, hey, we're not a good shooting team, but we're going to get better. But I'm a part of the problem as well. So all around, the Nuggets are fine. They'll be fine. But I think it's important that you set the standard at the beginning of the season. So now, bless you. So now everybody knows in that organization, in that locker room, hey, this is what is expected of this is what's expected of us, and this is what's expected of the team. So
yep, if you guys do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or when we upload content from TWSN Studios. Hey, I want to get Michael O'Hara in for the conversation. Without further ado, TWSN fantasy football analyst Michael O'Hara. What's going on, Michael?
Morning, guys. How we doing?
Doing good, man. How about you?
I actually have a little bit of news to break. I was just looking at Duke Tobin's laptop. I saw his Google search history. The last 3 things that he was searching was, when is the NFL trade deadline? Are NFL teams allowed to trade draft picks? And how much is a 6th round pick worth in the NFL?
Oh, wow. Wow. That's breaking. That's breaking news right there, Mike.
Yeah.
Wow. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. You got to wonder, right? Well, welcome to the party first and foremost, dude.
Thank you.
But I want to let you and Daniel get in on this fantasy football conversation. Obviously, a big game tonight. So,
yeah. So we'll start off with Thursday Night Football, and then we'll head into some start-sits for this week. Thursday Night Football, we got Texans and Jets. What's your thoughts? I mean, first off, the Jets look like a crapshoot, right? Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams. So talk to me about the Jets wide receivers, and also we can touch on the Houston Texans with Stroud, and then maybe some replacements for Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, first off, I'm sure everyone is just thrilled to be watching the Jets on primetime once again. The 2-6 Jets who can't seem to beat the Patriots. But other than that, it's just tough to watch. I mean, personally, I haven't given up on the Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers mind meld coming together. I mean, it's only been 2 weeks and they haven't played together in almost 3 years prior to this. But the results haven't been promising. Devontae Adams hasn't cleared a 22% target share in a single game with Rodgers yet this season. Like I said, it's just been 2 games. Garrett Wilson's been consistently the number 1 guy since Adams' arrival, 23% target share and a 28% target share in the 2 games that Adams has been there. But I really do think that unless you have a really, really strong, viable option to start ahead of, especially Adams, I think Adams is the person people are more concerned about. I think you got to start both these guys. Houston's top corner, Derek Stingley, really hasn't been playing that well this year. I mean, he's been getting deep fried by guys like Adonai Mitchell, just a stone cold rookie. And so I think you unless you have another really, really strong option, because at the end of the day, it really does come down to every individual team. I think you kind of just got to bite the bullet, bite your tongue, and get these guys into your roster, into your starting lineup rather. And then looking at the Texans side of the ball, it's pretty tough as well. I mean, we now know 2 weeks ago against the Packers, we know that 81 yards through the air is within the range of outcomes for CJ Stroud. And a lot of this, I do think, has to do with the absence of Nico Collins. Since Collins went down, the Texans have been 23rd in early down pass rate. So they're just feeding Joe Mixon. We've seen him get 25-plus carries pretty consistently throughout the year when he's been healthy. So I really would not be shocked if just this Houston passing game struggles tonight. Yeah. Last time CJ Stroud faced off against Sauce Gardner and company held to less than 100 passing yards. So it's just, I know Sauce Gardner is another corner who hasn't been playing particularly well, but I just don't like this matchup for Stroud. I think that this is going to be a really run-heavy approach from the Houston Texans, like we've seen throughout the time that Nico Collins has been sidelined. So it's kind of ugly all around, but I think with Tank Dell, I think this is just another situation where you have to bite the bullet and get him in your lineup. He's the de facto wide receiver 1. He has that explosive playmaking ability, but it's just a situation all around with both groups of these wide receivers where I think you have to get him in your lineup, but I just wouldn't be terribly shocked if you leave the game disappointed.
Of course. And I think that's what the conversation is. And I want to get your thoughts real quick. We got our guy, James O'Hara. So are you starting CJ Stroud, or would you sit him? And what would be a quarterback that you would, start over him if you're going to sit him?
I would start really any quarterback with rushing upside. I like, it's just those guys who can reach a higher ceiling. I would be fine starting Bo Nix. I would be fine starting Drake May if he plays, but I don't really want to be starting CJ Stroud here. I'm just going with Mixon and Tank Dell. If I like I said earlier, like it comes down to your team. If you have someone that you can start over Tank Dell, go ahead. I don't like the matchup a ton, but it's like the receivers are dropping like flies, and most people who have a league where they're forced to start 3 wide receivers or 2 receivers in a flex, you're probably just going to have to start Tank Dell.
Yeah. So let's head over to week 9. Let's talk about some starts and sits. And one of yours from last week, I'm going to be honest, was probably the smash of the week, and that was Bo Nix. I don't know what he finished as. I believe it was a top 3 to top 5 quarterback last week.
He was the second QB on the slate.
Number 2 QB. So you hit that. So let's keep that going this week. So let's start off with a guy that you think has an amazing matchup. It could be quarterback, running back, wide receiver. And as always, once again, if you guys want our full fantasy content, you guys can go down to the link in the description, the TWSN website. We got fantasy content coming out. Also, go follow Mike on his social medias. But Mike, who's some of your favorite starts for week 9?
Yeah, my really big start of the week is Brian Robinson Jr., running back for the Commanders. And I know he slots in as a pretty obvious RB2 choice for a lot of rosters, but I just want to make sure people aren't losing faith after he's had a couple of tough weeks. Less than 10 PPR points last week, hasn't cleared 15 PPR points in over a month. So it's been low-end RB2 production, and last week it was not even RB2 production from Brian Robinson. But this is very much a spot where he bounces back, and he should be slotted into your RB2 slot for just about every fantasy team out there, unless you have just absurd running back depth. The Giants' defensive line has been among the best in the NFL this year. They have 4 of the top 12 guys in terms of sacks, or 3 of the top 12 guys in terms of sacks. They have the sack leader, their nose tackle. Dexter Lawrence leads the league in sacks, but they have a killer pass rush, but they just cannot stop the run. It is legitimately the worst, one of the worst rushing defenses in the NFL. They're allowing 5.4 yards per rush, which is the worst mark in the league. Nearly 20%, 18% of their rushes have gone for at least 10 yards. Like, that's just absolutely insane to me. And obviously that is also the worst mark in the league. 4 different running backs have hit 90 yards against this defense, including Brian Robinson in week 2. So I think he's a no-brainer start this week, and you should expect him to smash.
And I remember that matchup. Week 2, it was a sloppy game, but that was the one thing that was working for them, right? Jane Daniels didn't have a great game. But they fed Brian Robinson, man, and they gave him, I don't know how many, 18 to 20 touches, I believe. He had over 112 yards. So I'm with you. Who's another guy? Give me a wide receiver, quarterback, some other guy that you think has an amazing matchup this week.
Yeah, it's Josh Downs. And I know that this is another guy. It's a little bit more fringe, but the benching of Anthony Richardson and the emergence of Joe Flacco is huge. I don't really need to rattle off the numbers for you. Everyone knows what that means for this passing game, but just generally, even with Anthony Richardson under center, Josh Downs was making a run to be the wide receiver 1 in this offense. He's been out targeted by Michael Pittman Jr. just once this season, and he leads the way among Indianapolis wide receivers, being targeted on 30% of his routes, which is a really, really elite mark. That's the mark that guys like Devontae Adams are hitting pretty consistently, and this is a strong matchup for him as well. The Minnesota defense allows the most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers this year. And it's a lot of it's driven by the fact that their offense is pretty good. And a lot of teams have been playing catch up against the Vikings this year. But still, nonetheless, I wouldn't be shocked if Indianapolis is playing catch up here and Joe Flacco is being forced to sling the rock all over the yard. And like I said earlier, Downs is really making his case. And I wouldn't be shocked if by season's end that Josh Downs is viewed as the top receiver in Indianapolis. And I really like him now that Anthony Richardson is on the bench.
I love it. I got him in one of my leagues. I'll definitely be starting him. So let's finish off with one guy that you're not a fan of, right? It could be a defense that's, playing great against that certain position, or a guy that's just fallen out of favor. Who's a guy that you are staying away from this week?
Yeah, one guy is Javonte Williams. He had a resurging game in Week 7 against the Saints in that really, really sloppy Thursday night football game. Yeah. And some people might be tempted to jam him into their lineup. He didn't have a great week last week, but still they're just like checking the game logs, seeing what they have on their team, and they see a blowout game for Javonte Williams and think, why not? You just don't start your running backs against the Baltimore Ravens. It's just it's one of those rules in fantasy football. You don't do it. They allow the fewest rushing yards per game to just in general this season to opposing offenses. And there are only 3 running backs to have a carry of at least 10 yards against the Baltimore Ravens this year. It's Chase Brown, Sean Tucker, and Nick Chubb. And Javonte Williams hasn't really been an explosive rusher since he had that ACL tear, that multi-ligament tear a couple of years ago. So I really just expect it to be a long day in the office for Javonte Williams.
Yeah, I will not be starting Javonte Williams, that is for sure.
Mike, we appreciate you, man. We've got to save some for Friday. You won't be on tomorrow, actually. You won't be on tomorrow, actually.
I won't.
But you know what? Mike will be joining us in the TWSN studios shortly. We've got some stuff in the works and we're pretty excited about. But Mike, want to thank you so much for hopping on Thursday and talking fantasy football through. Hopefully you have another productive week in your respective fantasy football leagues, and we look forward to talking with you.
Of course. Happy Halloween, everyone.
Happy Halloween, Mike. Who are you supposed to be?
I'm going as Draco Malfoy later tonight.
Draco Malfoy. Who's
From
that?
Harry Potter?
Okay, I've never seen Harry Potter.
Slick black, blonde hair, wear the cloak, get the tie.
Real original, Mike. Blonde hair.
Yeah.
No, man, I want to thank you so much. So we'll talk to you soon, man.
All right, I'll catch you guys later.
Yes, sir. Guys, do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content from the TWSN studios. Want to head on over to our final topic. Let's talk about our favorite bets for NBA action and Thursday night football tonight. We'll just do a quick little speed round. So Daniel, take it away.
Yeah, I think there's a couple plays I definitely like. And once again, as always, our full plays are going to be on the Patreon. Go check them out. NFL all week long and NBA. When I look at these games, there's 2 games that really stick out in my opinion. The first one is the Mavericks versus the Rockets. This is a game where both teams have some high scoring guys, and I really don't trust both defenses. So I'd be looking at Klay Thompson. I think Klay Thompson has an amazing matchup this game. The Houston Rockets defense they're lengthy, but they play at high, fast pace. And coming off a bad game last game, Klay Thompson's line's at 14.5. I think Klay Thompson easily hits 15. And I would also be looking at him to hit his over in threes. 3.5 is at plus 140. It may sound like a lot, but for a dude who's in the starting lineup, I think 3.5. I'm a huge fan. So Klay Thompson, I think we see a massive game out of him. And another one, I think that I got to roll with Giannis. I think that Giannis has a matchup against the Grizzlies that Zach Edey's a 7'4" big man. Jaren Jackson's a good defender, but Giannis has been on an absolute mission this season. And I really don't think that, he's as much of a passer this year as everybody else, has kind of made him out to be. And I think that's part of the Milwaukee Bucks problem is he's not passing a lot. He really is just taking it to the cup, getting what is his, and his line's at 28.5. So give me Giannis over 28.5. I think that this Grizzlies game is a lot closer than people think. The line is only at 7 points. I think we see a game that comes down to the wire between those two. And if there's anything else, I think that I look at the Spurs versus the Jazz game, and the lines aren't up yet, but I definitely, I think that Wemby has a bounce back game here, and hopefully, because he's coming off a back-to-back, hopefully he's playing, because I know that they said that they wouldn't be playing him on some back-to-backs, but I would be taking Wemby to get 20 plus points. That's probably going to be about minus 150, minus 160, but Wemby to get 20 points is something I love in the NBA as well. So let me go NFL.
Yep.
Okay. Thursday Night Football. This is one that even Mike was talking about. I'm going to be fading some guys. I think that the first thing that I think that this game kind of goes about is the Texans run the ball a lot here. So I'd be looking at Joe Mixon. I like his rushing yards, but I also like his rushing attempts at, or it is at 20.5. So give me his rushing yards. Give me 80 plus. He's hit 100 plus in his past 2 games. Joe Mixon is going to be a workhorse in this game. And if I like 2 other ones, I'm really staying away from the Jets side. To be honest with you guys, I don't trust Devontae. I don't trust Garrett Wilson. I don't trust Breece Hall, who's getting, 2 games ago, he got 95% of the snaps. Last game, they brought Braylon Allen back in to see more of the carries. So I don't really trust any of those guys. I think if there's anything, Tank Dell receptions, I really like at 4.5. He's a guy where they really have nobody else, man. Nico Collins isn't there. Stephon Diggs is hurt. So I like Tank Dell over 4.5 receptions. And I'm going to take Michael Harris, somewhat advice. I like CJ Stroud's under. So, yeah.
Awesome. If you guys do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live. Remember, there's only one way you should be waking up, talking sports, having the conversation, and that is the right way. We'll see you guys back here tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.